Thank you, councillors. Move on to item 6, which is declaration of councillors and officers' interest. Councillor Dave Atwell has declared a financial interest in item 10.1.4, proposed alterations and additions to the existing noxious industry, Lot 5, 49 Butcher Road, Darling Downs, as Councillor Atwell has business dealings with the applicant. Councillor Atwell will leave the chambers while the item is discussed. Councillor Tricia Duggan has declared an impartiality interest in item 10.1.5, proposed service station with incidental components, rural supply store and veterinary clinic, lot 9002, formerly lot 8011780 Thomas Road, Oakford, as Councillor Duggan has a close friendship with owners of land at lot 9006 Cargottage Road, Oakford. And Councillor D'Agostino has declared an approximatory interest in item 10.1.5, as it is a neighbouring property, which is where the subject of the development application is. And Councillor D'Agostino will leave the room while this item is discussed. Item 7 is confirmation of previous council meeting. 7.1 is the ordinary council meeting held on the 16th of May 2022. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Are you happy to move with the corrections in the text? Thank you. Can I please have a seconder for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Singh. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 7.2 is a special council meeting held on the 15th of June 2022. Could I please have a mover for these minutes? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Thank you, Councillor Atwell. Is there anybody opposed to these minutes? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 8 is receipt of minutes or reports and consideration of adoption of recommendations from committee meetings held since the previous council meeting. Item 8.1 is the Audit, Risk and Governance Committee meeting held on the 23rd of May 2022. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Atwell. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Strange. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 9 is motions of which notice has been given. Item 9.1, motion of notice, urban and rural forest strategy. I'm happy to move this motion. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 9.2, motion of notice of motion, Clem Kentish Reserve Master Plan. I am again happy to move this motion.
Madam President, can I just ask which one you're moving? There's a councillor recommendation and two officer recommendations.
I am happy to move the officer's recommendation 2. Can I please have a seconder for this motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Strange. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Given the fact that Councillor Cole's left, do I record him as being here for the motion?
Yes, back into the vote. I'll record it later in combat.
Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10 is Chief Executive Officer reports. 10.1 is Development Services reports. 10.1.1 is report on uptake of reduced fee pathway for retrospective development applications for stable or equestrian rural use. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Coles. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.1.2, proposed industry noxious sheep manure bagging and industry rural green waste mulching, lot 4, 235 Boomerang Road, Oldbury.
Madam President, you will note that we issued an updated alternative officer recommendation this afternoon with the date change, which was in saying 14th of January 2022. It should read 25th of May 2022. The rest of the motion is the same.
Thank you. Councillors, I have circulated an alternate motion this afternoon, which I am happy to move. Could I please have a seconder for the alternate? Thank you, Councillor Duggan.
For the benefits of
Madam President, I'm not opposed per se. I'd just like some explanation in regards to the amendment, specifically paragraph G, and in relation to the green waste mulching. No composting shall be carried out on site. No composting activators shall be brought to site. Specifically, my question is: does the proponent want to do mulching of green waste on site?
Director, can I ask you to respond to Councillor Coles's question, please?
Yes, certainly. Thank you for the question through you, Madam President. There's no composting proposed for the green waste mulching component.
Thank you, Madam President. Thank you, Director.
For the members' public gallery, the alternate motion that I have put forward this evening for this item, as the officer's recommendation, except for item G, which has had added to it, in relation to the green waste mulching, no composting shall be carried out on site and no composting activators shall be brought to site.
Madam President, can I seek clarification on who seconded the motion? I haven't got recorded.
Councillor Duggan.
Thank you.
Seconded the motion. Thank you. Is there anybody opposed to this motion?
Thank you, Madam President. I'm not opposing. Just a quick question, if I can ask.
Yes, Councillor Singh.
Just a clarification on the timings for condition A. We have the hours of operations for the industry noxious, including deliveries, shall take place only Monday to Friday between 7 to 5 and Saturday between 7 to 3. 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. But in the industry rule, which is condition H, restricted to 6 a.m. to 5 p.m. Monday to Friday and 7 a.m. to 3 p.m. on Saturday. Is there any reason we have that 1 hour difference between these two conditions? Thank you.
Thank you for your question, Councillor Singh. I will just go back and check. So, right. Director, are you able to explain the difference in the hours, please?
Certainly, thank you, Madam President. Thank you for the question through the chair. They reflect what was proposed by the application, and the officer assessment didn't identify any issues with those proposed operating hours, noting that they are slightly different from each other, but that's what the applicant did propose.
Madam President, can I ask a question, please? Yes, I'm just confirming, if I may, from the director that so the 7 till 3 and the 7 till 5 is actually talking about taking the deliveries, which means that there can be people on site from 6 a.m. but they can't receive deliveries until 7 a.m. Is that correct?
Thank you for the question through the chair. So looking at condition E, it's a both and condition. So the hours of operation, including deliveries, shall take place only Monday to Friday, 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Saturday between 7 a.m. and 3 p.m. So that's all proposed operations associated with the noxious industry component. That would be limited as per the current proposed condition E. In terms of condition H, the hours of operation are restricted 6 till 5 and 7 till 3. The word hours of operation include all facets of the proposal. You could argue that the words including deliveries after the words industry noxious are I guess a tautology or additional wording that's not really necessary. It's more just a statement to make it very clear, but the words operation include all aspects of the operation. No problems.
Madam President, the deputation we were going to receive is actually about this item 10.1.2. I don't know if there's any update on Mr. Laycock's arrival.
Ben is currently still in transit. However, I wish to thank the officers and seek endorsement of the recommendation.
Hang on a sec, please. So, Madam President, you have the ability to move items around on the agenda. In accordance with the standing orders, it does say that if there's a deputation, council shouldn't decide on it until then. It might be wise to hear the deputation before council decides upon the matter. If this gentleman is happy to do the deputation, I don't know your name, sorry, sir.
I'm Alex. I do not have a copy of the deputation, fortunately.
Are you happy just to speak to the item in place of Mr. Laycock?
Yeah, I can answer questions.
If you've got some information you'd like to put forward, given that Mr. Laycock has been delayed due to circumstances beyond his control, before we proceed any further with the motion, we do have a live motion on the table. It has been moved and seconded. So I'll allow you the opportunity to actually put forward any information that you can for this item before we go any further with the debate.
Madam President, Councillor Coles, for the recording, if I may, as the guidance was given by the CEO, can we defer this item later on to the agenda? I myself was 20 minutes late because Munajong Road is closed, so I don't know whether that's the issue for your colleagues. So again, situation out of control. perhaps the roads need to be fixed. That's probably all I can say about that. But in any event, perhaps we should put this later to the agenda so the person can make their deputation.
Councillor Coles, the information I've received, the motion is live. So,
Well, the information was just given, sorry, Councillor Coles, for the recording. The information was given by the CEO. I think it would be prudent. I don't want to be accused of being a bully, but I think it'd be prudent for this to be moved later to the meeting so the person can make their deputation.
Madam President,
what number is it?
item 3.8 in the standing orders allow you to change the order of business without any discussion. My concern is that we've got a live motion on the table. So if the council was of a mind to defer it, you could defer it and come back to the matter. My concern is just you've got a live motion. But exceptional circumstances may be there. So with the motion of council, Madam President, if you remind, you could defer council's consideration of the matter until Mr. Laycock arrives, and you have an opportunity to hear the deputation. If there was a mover and a seconder from that position.
As the mover, I'm actually happy to withdraw moving. Councillor Douglas, are you happy to withdraw seconding to move the motion?
Happy to withdraw. Thanks,
Thank
Madam
you.
President.
With the mover and seconder being withdrawn, we will defer this item until later in the evening, until such time as the consultant has attended to be able to provide his deputation this evening.
Sorry, Madam President, Councillor Coles, for the recording. Do we need a mover and a seconder for that item to be deferred? Or can
No,
you
we
do that
don't,
in your
Councillor
power as
Coles.
the
Under the
presiding
standing orders, as
Okay,
a presiding member.
Thank you, Madam President. I would appreciate if you just allowed me to finish talking before you interrupt me. I think that's not proper and it's rude. And as a presiding member, you shouldn't be doing that. Thank you.
Item 10.1.3, application to amend condition to extend validity of existing development approval, lot 100, 394 Hopeland Road, Hopeland. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Strange. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Strawton. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.1.4, proposed alterations and additions to existing noxious industry, lot 5, 49 Butcher Road, Darling Downs. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Singh. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Can we please ask Councillor Atwell to return? Councillor Atwell, the officer's recommendation was carried unanimously.
Thank you, Madam President.
Item 10.1.5, proposed service station with incidental components, rural supply store and veterinary clinic, lot 9002, formerly lot 801, 1780 Thomas Road, Oakford. Can I please have a mover? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Strange. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Thank you, Councillor Coles. Councillor Duggan, would you like to open debate, please?
Certainly, thanks, Madam President. I think that there's enough evidence that with the change in Thomas Road, that there is going to be concerns with this development. It is certainly, with its entrances and exits coming out so close to a large roundabout, I can see it, if it does manage to pass the main roads WA assessment, which I know is questionable, that it would increase the danger in what is already a dangerous intersection. For that reason alone, I can't support this being put through, and therefore I support the officer's recommendation. Thanks.
I'll say a couple of words. Thanks, Madam President. In addition to the point raised by Councillor Duggan in terms of Main Roads' objection to the proposal, I think it's really important to highlight we do have a new town planning scheme that is pretty imminent now, and that this use will be inconsistent with that scheme and a prohibited use. So going forward to approve or recommend approval for an application that will be inconsistent with our new scheme so shortly after its gazettal, I think is not orderly and proper.
Councillor Coles.
Thanks, Madam President, for the recording. Councillor Coles speaking. Notwithstanding the comments that the officers have made in relation to this item, I think we as councillors need to be prudent in the decisions that we make. This is obviously a officer's responsible authority report recommendation, so we'll go off to another area for the decision to be made. But obviously we have a sense, or we have a place to play in relation to our recommendations. And I think there's a couple of points here I'll make, salient points I would stress, and that is that this development, similar, not ideal, but similar, was approved by council in the past, and in fact several times it's come to council. I think in my infancy as a councillor it came to council and we approved it back then. For whatever reason it hasn't been progressed since it was approved by council historically or previously. However, what I would say is in relation to the development, I would say it's actually in line with the scheme. Certainly having a vet centre and a rural supply store would certainly be in line with the allowed use that we want in this area. And I think the other thing too is it's important for people of that area of the Shire to have a facility that they can access. You know, we are in June, and that infamous word that starts with R and is rates is looming large on all councillors. And make it be known, I will never ever be criticised of being a bully when I stand up for my residents and ratepayers, because I'm in this place for that sole reason. And on that, this is a development that I believe currently is in line with the town planning scheme. Let's not worry about what happens down the track. At the moment, it's in allowed use. What I would say is this is an area that will generate rates. This is a development that will enable some funding from rates to be put back into the budget of the Shire. This is a development that has been approved in the past. This is a development notwithstanding the issues or concerns with main roads and the roundabout and Thomas Road, but certainly this is something that can be mediated and developed when it does come to approval. So on those grounds, I would strongly suggest and submit to fellow councillors that this is a approved use. It is a development that certainly would not adversely impact the rural character of the facility. As I said, there is a rural supply store and also the veterinary clinic, which unequivocally does fit within the scope of the rural zone. And in relation to the service station, it's an interesting point because it's not a, shall I say, standard service station per se. It is more of a truck stop or a roadhouse. And the reason I draw that attention to my fellow councillors is it actually has a barbecue and picnic area. It has caravan parking. It has 144 car parking bays, including 9 at trailer bays as part of the complex. And certainly I would submit that that is certainly within the rural zone use. It is not a simple Ampol service station that you see in a residential area. Far from it, councillors. This is a truck stop. This is a roadhouse that, in all intents and purposes, it fits nicely like a hand in a glove in the rural zone. So I would submit that the responsible authority report actually allows the application.
Thank you, councillor Coles. So any councillors that would like to speak for the motion? Councillor Duggan, would you like to close, please?
Thanks, Madam President. Thanks, Councillor Coles, for the points you've raised. And if I can respond to those, firstly, this is not, no matter how broad we try to make it under the definition of a truck stop, it is not a truck stop. A truck stop must be on a main road. Main roads are working very hard to ensure that Thomas Road is a through road with no driveways, with no access roads that are actually on it that will slow down traffic. So therefore, this is not a truck stop. It is a service station. There is no doubt that the vet centre, the rural shop is in line with allowable uses according to Town Planning Scheme 2 and the Local Planning Scheme 3. But a service station is not part of our LPS 3, and I think that it would not show good foresight for us to be putting something forward that we know is not within that that planning scheme, which is just around the corner. I hear that this was previously approved. However, the benefit of having this additional information that Thomas Road is to be used as a main thoroughfare means that the situation has changed, and we must move and make decisions today based on that rather than based on what has been made in the past. It concerns me that, yes, we do want development, but at what cost? At the cost of our safety of our residents, because we would be providing dangerous access on roads for the entrance and exits for this development, and that just doesn't sit with me at all. So I thank you, Councillor Coles, but I'm firmly in the belief that the officer's recommendation is what we should be following. Thanks.
Thank you, councillor Duggan. All those in favour of the motion before us? All those against? Motion is carried 5-2. Can we please ask for councillor D'Agostino to return to the chamber?
Thank you, Madam President. I would ask that the votes are recorded.
Minute Secretary, can we please have the votes recorded? Councillor D'Agostino, the officer's recommendation was carried 5-2. Mr. Laycock, could you please come forward and present your deputation?
Good evening, elected members. Firstly, thank you for your patience tonight. My name is Ben Laycock. I'm a senior town planner from Altus Planning. I prepared the application that's before you at item 10.1.2, the proposed industry noxious sheep manure bagging and industry rural green waste mulching facility at Lot 4, number 235, Boomerang Road, Albury. I'm joined in the room tonight by my client, Alex Hunt, and the purpose of my deputation is to firstly thank the Shire's planning officers for their assistance and cooperation throughout the assessment process, and secondly, to seek endorsement of the recommendation for approval. There is a minor correction we believe needs to be made to one of the conditions, and I'll get to that in a moment. As the officer report states, this application essentially seeks the relocation of my client's manure bagging operations that are currently being conducted directly across the road from this site at lot 171, number 252 Boomerang Road, as well as establishing a green waste mulching operation. These are land uses which are permissible under the rural zoning, both of Town Planning Scheme number 2 and also the impending Local Planning Scheme number 3. Having submitted this application back in October 2021, it's been a long road for our client to get to tonight's meeting, with the application being subject to a number of specialist consultant reports in relation to bushfire, environmental impacts, noise and odour, and subsequent revisions to the proposed site layout as a result. Our client has also revised the proposal in direct response to submissions that were received during the public advertising period in the interest of fostering positive neighbourly relationships. Through all of the specialist consultants and even the Shire's own peer review of the odour assessment, it has been determined that the proposal will not result in any adverse impacts on the adjoining properties or the locality in general. We also note that the officers have referred this proposal to a number of state government agencies, including Main Roads, the Department of Primary Industries and Regional Development, the Department of Water and Environmental Regulation, and the Department of Fire and Emergency Services, all of which did not raise objection to our proposal. For these reasons, we kindly put to you that the recommendation for approval is the correct one, and we seek your endorsement of the officer's recommendation. We do, however, note that there appears to be an error in condition A, which refers to the revised site plan received on the 14th of January 2022. The latest site plan, which is also provided at figure 5 of the agenda, was actually submitted to the Shire on the 25th of May 2022. On behalf of the applicant, we otherwise have no objection to the proposed conditions, and we eagerly await your approval. Thank you for your time.
Now that council has had the opportunity to hear the deputation for this item this evening, I will return to this item in the agenda, which is item 10.1.2, proposed industry noxious sheep manure bagging and industry rural green waste mulching, lot 4, 235 Boomerang Road, Albury. I do have an alternate motion of which I will put forward, which is the same as the officer's recommendation, although in item G it has the inclusion of the wording in relation to the green waste mulching. No composting shall be carried out on site and no composting activators shall be brought to site. This alternate does have the amended date of the 25th of May 2022 in it. Can I please have a mover for this motion? A seconder for this motion. Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously.
And Madam President, we'll need a reason for the difference in the officer's recommendation for the minutes, please.
To make the conditions of approval clear, that there is to be no composting activators bought or used on site.
To be bought on site, to be bought or used on site, I think.
Yeah.
You happy with those words, Madam?
Conditions of approval.
Can you add conditions of approval? Of.
Thank Thank you. Councillors, we'll move to item 10.1.6, Mundijong Precinct F1 Local Structure Plan Commencement and Funding of. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Sorry, I'm just trying to. Councillor Duggan, you happy to move? Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Strange. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.1.7, Jarrahdale Oval Recreation Space and Trailhead Master Plan, adoption for community engagement. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Atwell. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.1.8, adoption of the annual revision of the Community Infrastructure Development Contribution Plan Report number 2. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Strange. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Singh. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.1.9, draft Serpentine Jarrahdale payment in lieu of parking plan. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Singh. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.1.10 is response to notice of motion climate change. I have an alternate motion for this item this evening. The alternate motion that I will put forward is that Council 1 notes the officer's response to the notice of motion climate change contained in this report. 2, resolves to become a signatory to the West Australian Local Government Association, WOLGA, Climate Change Declaration and endorses the following as the Shire's Climate Change Declaration. Climate Change Declaration. The Shire of Serpentine Jarrahdale acknowledges that evidence shows that climate change is occurring. Climate change will continue to have significant effects on the Western Australian environment, society and economy and the local government sector. Human behaviours, pollution and consumption patterns have both immediate and future impacts on the climate and environment. As a local government, it is part of our role to mitigate and manage the impacts of climate change on our community. The Shire of Serpentine Jarrahdale supports the environmental, social and economic benefits of addressing climate change immediately, opportunity for local government to demonstrate leadership in climate change management at a community level, development of equitable and implementable state and Commonwealth strategies for climate change management. The Shire of Serpentine Jarrahdale commits from date of signing to continue to implement and report against the Shire's 2015 climate change strategy and local action plan. In conjunction with the community, develop an updated climate change strategy and local action plan within 2 years of this declaration. Encourage, empower and assist where possible the local community and local businesses to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions and to adapt to the impacts of climate change. Support WALGA to work with state and federal government to ensure achievement of greenhouse gas emissions reduction targets are set out in key national and international agreements. Support WALGA to work with state and federal government to implement key actions and activities for climate change management at a local level. Work with key stakeholders within the Shire of Serpentine Jarrahdale to ensure achievement of the actions set out in the 2015 Local Action Plan and which may be set out in future local action plans on climate change. Assess the locally specific risks associated with climate change and implications for our services and identify areas where appropriate mitigation and or adaptation strategies should be developed and implemented. Ensure that at appropriate review intervals, our climate change action plans, policies, strategies are reviewed and amended to incorporate the latest climate science and to reflect the climate change management priorities and progress achieved to date. Monitor the progress of our adaptation and or mitigation actions and communicate our achievements to the councils and community. 3, authorises the Shire President to sign the Climate Change Declaration as endorsed under Part 2 above. 4, requests the Chief Executive Officer to include opportunities for the community to provide feedback on an updated climate change strategy and local action plan for the Shire as part of the forthcoming Strategic Community Plan major update. And 5, requests the CEO to include a climate change action button on the front page of the Shire's website that details A, the Shire's climate change strategy and local action plan, B, progress against the action plan, and C, future planned incentives to be taken as part of the action plan. I am happy to move. Can I please ask for a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Thank you, Councillor Coles. As the mover of this motion, I will open debate this evening. I think it is clear after reading through the information provided by the officers for this item shows that there is a clear direction of where our community has driven this item to date, and I think it shows with the will of our community the direction that council need to be looking and take in this climate change strategy for our community. We are a community that values our environment quite strongly. We are the custodians of quite a large pocket of Northern Jarrah forest that is situated around the top of the Darling Scarp in our area, and I think it would be remiss of us not to actually support our community in matters of climate change, and this will have overflow effects into the planning of our community into the future, and we need to make sure that planning is actually for the benefit health-wise and others for our community. Councillor Duggan, would you like to speak or reserve?
I'd like to speak, thanks, Madam President. I think the words that are pertinent to me here is in point 2, where it mentions that the plan's policy strategies are reviewed and amended to incorporate the latest climate science. And that's the words that hit me, that this is about the science. This is not about what we might personally think about climate change. This is actually about the information that's provided to every single one of us if we go to Google Scholar rather than just go to Google. I also, on saying that, think it reflects what the community is asking of us as representatives of them. You'll have to excuse my numbers because I do come off the top of my head and they might be a little bit out, but the percentage of new car sales that are electric vehicles has doubled in 6 months, from 1% to 2%, which doesn't sound like much, but there is an expectation that the sale of electric cars will be 80% of those vehicles sold in Australia by 2050. So what does that say? That says that our community is starting to get scared for what's going on, and we need to be embracing and we need to be leading by example. So that's why I have absolutely no question that this is what we need to be supporting and we need to be pushing for and on behalf of our residents, both those that are in our community now and those that will come to our community in the next 100 years. Thanks.
Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Councillor Coles?
Thanks, Madam President, for the recording, Councillor Coles. Firstly, I'll make from the outset, it's very, very rare, and in fact I can probably count on one hand, if at all, the times I've sat in this place and talked about my personal opinion, because it's not about me personally, it's about my residents and ratepayers. And I may well be called a bully for fighting for my residents and ratepayers, but I'll continue to do so. The question I have is, at what cost will this be to the residents and ratepayers of the Shire? Why has it that at 11 minutes past 2 this afternoon, we get emailed an alternate motion for something that we discussed a week ago in this place? For me, this may have some merit, but I don't know the details of it. I don't know what cost this will be to the residents and ratepayers of the Shire. I've only just now had the opportunity. I started work at 2 o'clock, so I didn't have the opportunity to check my emails. So this is the first time I've seen it. And whilst that's not an excuse, I think it's pertinent to know the decisions made on the hop, decisions made when councillors don't have the correct information, when councillors don't know all the details of motions, it is a dangerous position to be in. So whilst my fellow colleagues were talking, I had a quick look at the Wolga website. So I've had a look and I typed in the search criteria, the West Australian Local Government Association Climate Change Declaration. And look, I'm not the smartest when it comes to IT, but guess what? I couldn't actually find what that is. It talks about climate change. It talks about the Wolga climate change policy position. It has some nice templates. It has some nice smoke and mirrors. It has some nice motherhood statements. It has a Wolga policy statement on climate change. It has a climate change policy statement discussion paper and the draft Wolga climate change policy and the rest of it. It's interesting that 65% or 40 local governments have committed to a signatory of the climate change declaration, but maybe I can't actually find it, but certainly there's nothing that jumps out at me that actually says what the climate change declaration signatory, what the climate change declaration actually means. What's the cost of the ratepayers? What is the cost of the ratepayers for us to make ourselves to feel good about doing something that we think we should be doing for the community? There's a saying that one of my previous bosses had in the military, and that is, let's be brilliant at the basics. Let's not concern ourselves with things that perhaps we shouldn't be concerned about at the moment. Let's look at getting Kiernan Park sorted. Let's look at Briggs Park. You know, an oval there that can't even be used during the football season. Let's, for a start, as councillors and as a Shire, be brilliant at the basics. We can have these airy-fairy motherhood statements and talk about climate change and how good that makes us feel. But it's about time we as councillors, it's about time we as a council, we as a Shire start putting the residents and ratepayers first. I don't know how much this will cost. And, you know, I can be a little bit cheeky, which of course I never am, but what did the eastern states have before candles? The eastern states had power before candles. Look at the brownouts they're having over there. We can sit here and say that renewables are the future. But at the moment, renewables are too expensive. We have to rely on fossil fuels. That is the reality. And people can sit there and shake their head, but that is the reality. Do we want to sit here in the darkness? Do we want to sit here tonight and have candles? Look at solar power. It works well during the day. We need to develop what we do. We need to have storage. We need to have batteries. There are things that we can do. I sit in this place ad nauseum and talk about us being responsive, reasonable and relevant. This is not us doing our job as a local council. This will be an encumbrance on our residents, our ratepayers, our small businesses. It is remiss, someone used the term remiss, it is remiss of us as councillors to make a decision on such an important issue tonight on a piece of paper with no consistency, no validity, no actual gumption to what it actually means. We had the opportunity to discuss this a week ago. Why didn't we? And I would recommend that we actually have this as a policy concept forum. Let's actually talk about climate change in a policy concept forum. Let's actually talk about what that means for the local businesses in the Shire. Let's talk about what that means for us, for our larger businesses, what it means for our residents and ratepayers, all the people that are building new houses. Is there something that we can do to address climate change? Can we be innovative in that way? Or do we sit here and pat each other on the back and say, oh, we've signed up to something I can't even find on the website at a cost unknown to the ratepayers? A decision made on the hop is a poor decision. A decision made when we don't have all the information is a poor decision. It might make us feel good, it might make us look better in terms of Wolga, but for goodness sake, if nothing else, let's look at the time of the year, let's look at who we're here to represent. It's the residents, ratepayers and the small business in the area. And if there's something wrong with that, call me a bully, but that's what I'm here for.
Thank you, Councillor Coles. In closing, is there any speakers for the motion? Sorry. In closing the debate for this item tonight, I will ask my fellow councillors, what is the cost to our community for inaction if we do nothing? We already see what the heat does to areas that have been developed in our Shire that have no trees left in them. There is no trees for the kids to play in some of the parks. We are going to struggle as we move forward to find water for our parks and our playing fields. We can either sit on our hands with inaction, or we can make a decision that we are going to do what we can, where we can, for our community now and for our community in generations to come, so that they actually have something left. It would be lovely to sit here with candles tonight, it'd be quite romantic. But there is bigger issues at play. Can we fix all of these issues? Probably not. Can we work with other people? Can we work with other local governments? Can we work with our community and other communities to find a way forward and to do what we can as individuals, as a council, as a shire and as a community to help lessen the impact of climate change on our communities? And that, councillors, is exactly what this motion is about tonight. I don't think any of us are under the illusion that this is something that we can fix in a very short period of time. But we have to try and we have to be able to do what we can. And I see this as our way forward, where we can join into other local governments, other communities, where we can try and make a difference. Thank you, councillors.
Sorry, Madam President, can I ask a question? Has this been costed? And if so, how much will this cost the ratepayers?
Councillor Coles, it hasn't been costed, but any of the actions coming out of the climate change strategy and the local action plan would be costed and come to council before they were actually approved to have funding spent on them.
Sorry, so there is no idea, sorry, Councillor Coles for the recording. So the Shire cannot make an assumption or an estimate to the long-suffering ratepayers about how much this would cost?
Councillor Coles, as I have stated, the cost would be in the reports that would come to council at a time when the climate change strategy and items out of the local action plan would come to council with a full report from officers if funding was required for those items at such time.
So I'll ask the question again. There is no idea what this is going to cost the ratepayers in terms of staff hours, the joining the climate change strategy action plan, progressing the action plan, and the other parts of this motion. Can you just confirm that no one knows what this is going to cost the ratepayers?
It depends on what the community consultation is, Councillor Coles, and what the actions are that fall out of the strategy and the local action plan moving forward when those items as reports come to council for what the cost would be.
Thank you. The answer is no. Thank you, Madam President.
Councillors, all those in favour of the motion before us? 1, 2, 3, 6. All those against? Motion is carried 6-2.
I would ask the votes recorded. Thank you, Madam President.
Minute Secretary, can you please record the votes?
And Madam President, we'll need a reason for the difference in the officer's recommendation for the minutes as well, please.
For council to be able to take action to adapt or mitigate for our community around climate change management. Thank you. Item 10.1.11, draft 20-year facilities plan for the Shire's 6 bushfire brigades, emergency support brigade and SES unit. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Singh. Is anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.2, infrastructure services reports. Items 10.2.1 and 10.2.2 have been removed from this agenda item.
Madam President, we have missed one. We missed item 10.1.12, Bushfire Advisory Committee Information Report.
Sorry, I've skipped a page. Sorry, 10.1.12, Bushfire Advisory Committee Information Report. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Singh. Can I please have a seconder for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Atwell. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.2, infrastructure services reports. 10.2.1 and 10.2.2 have been withdrawn from this agenda. Item 10.2.3, deed of agreement, Darling Downs Residents Association. Can I please have a mover for this motion? I'm happy to move. Councillor Duggan, are you happy to second? Thank you.
Yes, thanks,
Is there
Madam
anybody opposed to this motion?
Thanks, Madam President. I'm not opposing, just a quick question if I can ask.
Yes.
The question is, I think we are giving them the mower and the tractor, which is about $3,000 and 12,000. How the Shire is managing the OSH perspective if someone get hurt using those Shire assets, because the assets belong to the Shire? Are we, the Shire is responsible for covering any accidents or any mishappenings? Can I please have an answer for that?
I'll ask the Director of Infrastructure Services to respond to your question, Councillor Singh.
Thank you for the question. Through you, Madam President, the responsibility for operating, including the safety of the operatives, lies with DDRA, and their insurance, we've clarified, their insurance will cover both the tractor and the mower for accidents.
Thank you. Can I ask one more question if I can? Thank you. The other question is the asset replacement plan, because I think those assets were due for replacement, so we are giving them to use. Is the Shire intending to replace them in the near future, or any plan or renewing them soon? Thank you.
Thank you for the question. So the tractor has been with DDRA for quite a few years, and it is surplus to the Shire's need. The mower, which we are intending to give them, is due for replacement next financial year, and we have always had contingency that should the council agree to providing this mower to DDRA, we will not receive the trading value of the mower, but we have a new mower in the budget, in next year's proposed budget, to purchase one new.
Thank you. Thank you for the answer. Thanks, Madam President.
Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.2.4, main roads speed audit.
Madam President, I will just remind councillors we did issue a revised officer recommendation on Thursday for this item. I might just ask the Director of Infrastructure just to explain the difference, if you indulge me with that, with the original officer recommendation and the new one, if that's okay with you, Madam President.
Yes, please.
Director of Infrastructure, can you just explain the difference, please?
Thank you, Mr. CEO. When the original officer recommendation was prepared, that was before the Q&A on Monday night. The officers were seeking allocation of an additional $40,000 in next year's operating budget to undertake the audit. However, as the budget was almost balanced, between the officer's recommendation being distributed as agenda item and Q&A night, during that time, officers looked at alternative sources of funding to undertake the consultancy work, and they identified some savings in the list of consultancy works that we were proposing in next year's budget. And also they identified some of the other consultancy work proposed in the budget that could be done using in-house resources. So as a result, we identified $40,000 that was being proposed in next year's budget that could be allocated for undertaking this audit. So accordingly, the initial officer recommendation was seeking an allocation of an additional $40,000 in next year's budget. And the revised officer recommendation is that council supports allocating $40,000 in next year's budget. However, not as an additional $40,000 to what we've already proposed in next year's budget. So effectively, the consultancy work will still cost $40,000 approximately. However, that's not in addition to the draft budget that's already been presented to council. It will be absorbed within the consultancy work proposed in that draft budget.
Thank you, Director. Could I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you. Councillor Duggan, can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Strange. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.2.5, Council consent to land dedication, Thomas Road and Nicholson Road intersection, Oakford, north side of the intersection. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Singh. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.2.6, Administration Building and Council Chambers Redevelopment Concept Plans. Can I please have a mover for this motion? I'm happy to move. Councillor Duggan, you happy to second?
Yes, thanks, Madam President.
Anybody opposed to this? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.3, Corporate Services Reports. 10.3.1, Confirmation of Payment of Creditors May 2022. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Singh. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.3.2, monthly financial report, April 2022. Can I please have a move on this motion? Thank you, Councillor Duffy. Can I have a second, please? Thank you, Councillor Singh. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.3.3, project management policy and implementation of project management framework. Can I please have a move of this motion? Thank you, Councillor Strange. Can I have a second, please? Thank you, Councillor Atwell. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.3.4, we've done that one. Item 10.3.5, council policy review forward calendar. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Atwell. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.4, community and organisational development reports. 10.4.1, community events and activities, summary of 2021-2022 and proposed 2022-2023. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Singh. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.4.2, SJ Library Service Relocation Project Update. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Singh. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Strange. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.4.3, Jarrahdale Bridle Trail Concept Plan. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Can I please have a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Atwell. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.4.4, Horse and Pony Expo Equine Festival. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Strawtons. Can I please have a seconder for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.4.5, Jarrahdale Trail Town Implementation Plan, Year 1 Delivery Update. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Atwell. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.5, Executive Services Reports. 10.5.1, Peel Regional Leadership Forum membership. Can I please have a mover for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Strawton. Can I please have a seconder for this motion? Thank you, Councillor Duggan. Is there anybody opposed to this motion? Motion is carried unanimously. Item 10.6, Confidential Reports. 10.6.1, Confidential Criminal Procedure Act 2004, Lot 101, 154, Soldiers Road, Byford. Can I please have a mover to close the meeting to the public gallery? Thank you, Councillor Strange. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Singh. CEO, can we, is there anybody, all those in favour of this motion? 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Motion is carried unanimously. Can we please have the public gallery closed?